Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Rams Talk podcast after Derby County get a huge point at home to Burnley, which I think we was just chatting off air that we probably think this was a 2-point dropper. But tonight we're joined by James Walker. How are you, James?
I'm very well, mate. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. I'd have been better if we hadn't messed that up at the end, but we'll get onto it. And we're also joined by Dan McSheffrey. Dan, how are you, mate? You good?
I'm doing well. Good point last night, but in about 48 hours, I'll be in Japan on holiday while you lot are having to see it firsthand. So
yeah, well, that is kind of best place, isn't it? Really, as far away as possible from this absolute massive run-in that we've got. We'll talk a little bit firstly about last night, then, which obviously first thoughts when we talk about last night, James. What was your overall feel of the game? How did we do? What stood out to you in particular?
I was actually quite impressed. I fully walked into the stadium thinking we're going to get beat comfortably 2 or 3-0. I don't think Burnley enjoyed it at all, which I think speaks volumes of what it was that we were able to kind of pull off. After that first 20 minutes where they kind of zipped it around with not a lot of purpose, I thought we actually probably had the better of the second part of the first half, and I think they were quite grateful when that half-time whistle blew. And then in the second half, I don't think, other than that one opportunity they had kind of that came from a mistake and a very, very good Zetterstrom save, there wasn't a great deal that they offered, really. I don't remember them. I don't ever really remember thinking, God, we're going to concede here.
I agree. I think we really nullified them, didn't we, Dan? I think that's credit to, well, this is later on in my notes, but let's just talk about it straight away. The back five last night defended like Trojans again, and the back five just seems to be getting better and better in whatever combination it is. What's standing out to most of you with them 3/4 who have been consistent in that back five?
Well, I think I'd say rather than necessarily concentrating on defence, because I think as a unit they're defending really well, the team's performing. I'd go without saying, but a real special shout out has to go for what John Eustace is getting out of this group, because on paper this is a really average group. I did think there was more than what Warren was getting out of them, but he's really got them performing like a proper team. And last night it looked like a side that had everything in it. It was just missing that little bit of sugar on top up front. So that's really it. So the back five have been performing fantastically.
Yeah, they've been outstanding, haven't they? And a special mention to Matt Clark and all. But again, we'll get there at the end of the game. We'll talk about the first probably 25 minutes, as James mentioned. It was a very, would you say, slow start, or a very lack of, realising how good they might be? Because for the first 20 to 25 minutes, I think Burnley absolutely peppered our goal. And as we've said, if it wasn't for a really good piece of goalkeeping from Zetterstrom, which I do think the Burnley striker should have done better, mind.
Yeah.
But if it wasn't for that, I mean, that first 25, we've seen it a few times, not just under John Eustace. It was happening earlier on in the season as well, where we've weathered storms early on and we've got through it. And obviously we didn't quite get that goal yesterday. But James, what happened them first 20 minutes? Why couldn't we get near them?
I don't know. I think it was a little bit nervy, a little bit cagey. I think we're kind of reading a little bit, licking some wounds maybe from Swansea. And then I think after that point, we kind of looked as if these actually aren't much better than us. I mean, our 36-year-old Craig Forsyth made £15 million. Marcus Edwards looked like an absolute donkey for nearly 90 minutes of football. I don't remember him actually doing a great deal. Was it Fleming that missed that early opportunity at the start?
It would have been, Fleming.
I mean, he must have been a Derby County striker by proxy for that particular effort. But I mean, I think it must have just been some wounds, I think, from Swansea.
Yeah, I think when we're talking about Craig Forsyth's performance, Dan, that Marcus Edwards really, for me, didn't do anything special. I think he had one run first half where he picked the ball up, and I think we was a little bit stretched on a break, and he beat about 5 players, and then rifled it into the south stand. But just describe Craig Forsyth, because he is a man who's like a fine wine. He just keeps getting better and better. It's vintage Craig Forsyth here, 2024 blend. And it's just 2025, blend. He is absolutely flying.
I think it's what we've come to expect from him. Love to throw the praise that we can on him, but it's just what we've come to expect. I really do hope that this is what I'll call his crowning moment. He never got the promotion that he richly deserved after the teams he played in for us as well. We should have got promoted. There was at least 3 opportunities where we were more than good enough to go up. I do think, though, that staying up this season will feel as good as a promotion to the Premier League because we were dead and buried 3 weeks ago. He epitomises everything that we're doing right.
Yeah.
Like if you watch us from front to back, he's doing all the basic things that we were getting horribly wrong before. He's doing everything correct. I mean, it's the diversity of it, isn't it, as well? Like he can go out there on that left-hand side and keep a winger like that quiet, but then he can also come into the middle. I do want to just caveat off there from what you two were saying. I actually was quite impressed with that lad up front for them. I thought that's the type of signing. If it should we stay up, that's the type of centre forward on the way he pinned. Takes a lot to pin Clark and Langas and stuff like that, and he really did hold them off like when they come into him. But yeah, Fozzie, we could praise him. We could praise him until the end of the season and twice on a Sunday. It's what we've come to expect from him. He's never let us down in 11, 12 years now.
Do we say one more year? Is there another year for Craig Forsyth at Derby County?
I'm gonna be a hater. I'm gonna be a hater and go. This would be a perfect thing to sign out on. For me,
James,
I'd like to see him move into coaching.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd like to say yes, even if it is just as an emergency backup. I don't want him to fade and become a Connor Washington, and and we sit here and talk about just collecting a wage for doing absolutely nothing. But I don't know. It depends kind of what the recruitment's like in the summer. I'd kind of say if we stay up. And Clark sticks around, Langas sticks around, Nelson sticks around, Elder sticks around, and we sign a left back. I don't know where he gets into the team. He'll be 37 next season. Yeah, he's getting to a point where he might think he's had enough as well.
He's like a fine wine, though. He's pulling out performances now that are just, for a man of his age and his body's state, is pretty ridiculous. Another defender I want to quickly touch on, and he's in the title tonight, is Nat Phillips. Now, Dan spoke about Fleming and his hold-up play between Clark and Langas, but he got absolutely no change out of Nat Phillips. Other than that chance where Phillips got sent back to Liverpool for 5 minutes, where I think his ankle may have gone flying as well. Other than that, Nat Phillips was absolutely unbelievable last night. And for me, he was man of the match. I think he was man of the match at Preston as well. Is he a player that we can actually afford? Because we talk about how much money he's on. I think he's on £65,000 a week now. He's going to need to take at least 2/3 of a pay cut to come to Derby. But James, would he be the kind of signing that we want?
100%. I mean, he's more than good enough for the level. And I think the thing is, and we've got to remember, and there is a slight positive about it, is no matter where he goes, he's going to take a pay cut. He's not getting 65k a week anywhere else, is he? Let's face it. He's not going to end up at a Chelsea or he probably could at this point, but he's not going to end up at a Chelsea or a Man U. He's going to end up either lower half Prem, top half, hopefully us Championship side. So he's got to take a pay cut. I think, yeah, he's going to take at least 2/3 to come to us. I can see him kind of going to, I don't know, for Bristol City, don't go up a Bristol City type side, somewhere like that. But it really depends on kind of what we've got in the pipeline. If we've got centre halves identified that could come in, be as good for half the price, this is kind of a no-brainer for us at this point. That's just where we are as a football club. And it comes back to that question of investment, doesn't it? If investment comes in and we can afford it, why not?
Yeah, it's a fair point. Really valid point. Dan, I'm going to quickly go on to another defender, then we will actually talk about some Derby attacking display, is the uncertainty of one Kane Wilson. Now, for me, I think he's Derby's biggest asset at the moment. I think if we do manage to tie him down and never let him leave on a free, he has got some serious resale value, because last night it is such a breath of fresh air to have a man like Kane Wilson running down our right-hand side. He is the most exciting player we have. Like, for me, he's the one, every time he gets the ball, he gets me off my feet. How important is getting over the line and keeping a player like Kane Wilson around?
I think I think as well, what's important here is he's probably operating at about 70-80% fitness at the minute, because you can see he's conserving his energy. Particularly on set pieces last night, 2 or 3 times. I don't want to look into it too much because I don't know, but he did go to the touchline and talk to the coaching staff 2 or 3 times. So I think the way that he was brought back in after the Niambi injury and stuff like that, they didn't want to play him in that game, but it's needs must now, and we can't have any passengers. In terms of his performance, I think defensively last night you probably didn't have to see too much of him defensively because we were being so on the front foot and being so positive. I think he stays if we stay up, because I think the whole team's buying into this Eustace, the click that he's making within the club. Whether we can stay up is still an uncertainty. If we go down, there's absolutely no chance that he stays, because he could go and be second choice at a top 6 champ side, really. Like if we're looking at it that way, but yeah, I just want to see us add to him though in terms of attacking quality, because to rely on our right back, if we want to call him that, to attack, that's kind of why we are one of the poorest teams going forward, and it's just putting too much emphasis on it. But in terms of his output, I think he's been absolutely fantastic after a quiet game on Sunday. But I think 90% of them had a rather quiet game on Saturday. Sorry.
Yeah, we'll caveat from Kane Wilson onto Derby's aerial bombardment for the last probably 10 to 15 minutes of that first half, which was started from Kane Wilson making water out of wine down the right-hand side. He beat a couple of players, squared it across, shouts of handball from the north stand, but nothing given. And then it just started a sequence of long throw, corner, long throw, corner. And I think for them probably last 10 to 15 minutes, we had Burnley rattled, James, didn't we?
100%. They like I said earlier in the show, I think for the last 20, 25 minutes of that first half, they couldn't wait for the half-time whistle to blow. And it makes sense from our point. I mean, how many goals have we scored from open play? Not many. We're not very good at it, and it's kind of stick to what you're good at. That's what's going to, if we stay up, that's what's going to keep us up, is what we're good at. And we've got some units in that back line that can get up there and kind of and get on the end of things. And I think that's why we've seen Matt Clark and Nat Phillips get 2 assists out of nowhere and things like that. I think that was probably where we missed Callum Elder the most yesterday, was not only his long throws. I think he's got a better long throw than the takers we had last night, but also from dead ball situations and corners and things like that. I think getting the ball in the air in the box is where we shine, because we've got some big boys in that side.
Yeah, I think with as well, touching on Callum Elder's left foot, did we have another left foot taker on the pitch last night? Because I genuinely think, other than Forsyth and Clark, I think everybody else was right-footed, if I'm right. Which
Thompson left-footed?
I think he's predominantly right, isn't he? I think he's got not a bad left foot, but I don't think he's Santi Cazorla, where he can take a corner with his right and left foot. We'll come to the move of the game for me, which was Derby's bombarding counter-attack down the right, across Ibu Adams' little step over the ball. Forsyth's pass on repeat, please. It was perfectly weighted. Marcus Harness's head down, and yeah, the bounce for Yates just took it away, Dan, didn't it? And you think that bit of quality there in such a small sample size is something I think we'll see from John Eustace a little bit more next season, won't we?
Yeah, I think we can be critical of Yates, and we'd probably be safe if he'd put away the chances that he's missed this season. But that one, I don't think we can blame him too much. I think the move just happened so quickly. I mean, maybe not necessarily with that counter-attack, but something I noticed last night is Burnley love to flood their own box. Like they really don't like coming out. They like congesting that space. And unless you are the Messi-esque type player who can just go through people's legs and stuff like that, you're really going to struggle to score. But even the layback off Harness, the things we're seeing the likes of Harness do with and without the ball now, it just really makes you question how bad the coaching of these players was before. He's really making what I consider to be absolutely 100% mid-table championship players at best. He's making them operate at a higher level. It's just what a surprise that good coaching can get the more out of us.
Well, I've been seeing Blackburn fans kind of retracting their words about John Eustace all over Twitter over the last 24 hours after they lost the game, didn't they? So, yeah, I mean, John Eustace is just creating a miracle at Derby. And if he does stay up, he's got serious. His CV looks serious at the Championship level. One thing to touch on before we get to the end of all the first half action was the whistle being blown as Jerry Yates had the ball on the halfway line with James Trafford in absolutely no man's land, and the Derby players was not best pleased, James. And I don't think many of us were we?
No, I must admit, I can't stand Robert Madley. I think he's every time he's officiated us, he's always done something that's just glaringly awful. The one that springs to mind again was against Burnley when he sent Chris Martin off at their place. Yeah. Even my missus who came last night, even she went, "Why is he blowing the whistle there?" She's not even that into football. Even she understood it was a poor decision. And
it's not the first time we've seen Jerry Yates in that position this season. If we remember back, was it Plymouth where he rattled the bar from probably further back and the goalkeeper actually close to his goal? Dan, I can imagine we weren't best pleased as well. The question is, would Jerry Yates have scored that?
Jerry Yates misses from 2 yards. So if he'd scored from there, you would have seen even me giving him the plaudits, and it takes a lot for me to land anyone.
I think it was just the way the situation opened up, didn't it? Because they wasted 15 to 20 seconds thinking about putting that ball long to pass it backwards for the goalkeeper to slip and then the referee blow. I think I was looking at the clock. It was 46:06, which for me is baffling. But again, we can't dwell on it. Like Dan said, we've seen Yates miss sitters, so there's no guarantee.
Just what you were saying there, like, as well. This hasn't been mentioned. Obviously, when I don't come on, I'll always watch it, and even if it's the next day, I'll always rewatch the pod and stuff like that. We haven't really spoken a lot about whether we'd keep Jerry Yates. Really,
it's a very tough decision, isn't it?
Because that's obviously that's an available purchase. That's a realistic buy for us. I mean, maybe not as first choice, but I do think since Eustace has come in, you can't knock the lad's work rate for us. He's gave absolutely everything.
Well, I personally think that's why Jerry Yates doesn't score as many, because he works ridiculously hard. I think his pressing energy is perfect, and I think we're seeing the most now. Larry's got 2 more players higher up with him to help him. He's definitely coming into his own off the ball. As we said, does he score enough goals? Probably not. He is a proven scorer, though. He does. I think he was Swansea's top goal scorer last season. Blackpool, he took goals away for fun. Maybe it is a confidence thing. I'm not sure, but say he scored. Well, I think he scored once since Boxing Day, which for his striker, you just need a little bit more. But yeah, I'll ask you then, James. Jerry Yates, yes or no, depending on the fee.
Yeah, that's the big question there, isn't it? It depends on the fee. I think there's also an argument to say that kind of a lot of the way we've played, I mean, you've already kind of mentioned that it's an aerial bombardment at the moment, and that's how we play. That doesn't suit a 5'8", 5'9" Jerry Yates, however tall he is. He's not a big lad. And when it comes to getting balls into the box for him to get on the end of, they're normally in the air. There's not a lot of kind of drilled low balls or through balls being played. We've just not seen that all season. I think part of that is due to the wingers. It's no surprise to me that since we've moved away from playing with wingers, we've started picking up results. I've said in an earlier pod, I think we've got some of the worst wingers in the division. Caden Jackson, that's all I'll say. But yeah, I would take him depending on the fee. I wouldn't want him to be my primary starter unless he has got somebody alongside him. I thought he looked his best when Salverson was alongside him.
Yeah, I agree.
In fairness, and it's a shame he got injured.
And that only goes from strength to strength when you play 2 up front. You just got to be patient with it. And oh boy, a Derby fan's patient.
But I don't think Eustace will. I think Eustace will kind of go back to what he's defaulted in at Blackburn, 4-2-3-1.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's where we'll end up. Yeah. We'll go into the comments quickly, just while we're at half time. Yates gets a lot of stick. It's from Jim. Yates gets a lot of stick, but I've been watching him closely. He works his socks off and pulls defenders all over, which is a completely fair take. And Jake's kind of brought up one of my later points, which is the back five at the end. If Langas is out, what do we do? We'll skip forward because Jake's asked. Obviously, we know Langas is playing through this knee injury, which fair play to him. It's the warrior mentality of the Norwegian. We've seen Kane Wilson shuffle to right centre-back at the end of the game. For me, I don't want him there. I think it is a very big dilemma, isn't it, Dan, of what do we do if Langas and Elder are both missing on Saturday?
To be totally honest with you, I think that he's playing kidology with Elder, and I think he's talking about this fitness regime. We've got this team that they brought in, and then a player. It's like player control. Like, I can't play, so I'm not playing, and then they end up being out for 6 weeks. Seems it's like a minimum 5 to 6 week term for injuries. I think if Elder has to play, I think he'll risk stuff because we've seen it already. A little bit of a caveat, like we've seen Lennon Wilden like very briefly on Saturday. I've been calling for a couple of the academy lads to be given a shot here and stuff. I don't really know many of the defenders in the academy team. I don't see him taking a punt on one of them. I think the only other one you're looking at is changing to a back four and sticking Fozzie on the left-hand side, and then obviously your Phillips and Clark with Wilson on the right. I just think one way or the other, we're answering your question or not. We've just got to take it to Portsmouth, and he's got to select however he can get that to happen. He's got to do it because we've got a seriously winnable game on our hands.
James, any more comments on that?
I think he'll probably stick with the back three and chuck Peters in where necessary. It wouldn't surprise me to see him if Langas can do any minutes, play 45 and then chuck Peters on. Or something of that nature. But I can see Peters coming in at centre half, Fozzie staying wide if Elder isn't fit, and it's not kidology with Wilson on the right. It would mean that Phillips kind of goes to the right of the three, and I can probably see Clark being in the centre of the three with Peters probably being.
If he can't step in and play a game at left back, then why is he here? It's the same thing with Jeff now. I really want to see him get on the pitch because. And I don't want to jump to another point necessarily, but I know we're playing well and things are going really positively, but I really can't see for the life of me what Liam Thompson is offering us like at all in that team. I feel like Jeff could come in there and add to that, further that progression up the pitch. But yeah, sorry to jump in.
No, it's all good. Don't worry. We'll get back onto the game. We'll get back onto the second half where it was a pretty dead game for probably another 40-odd minutes, really. Burnley couldn't break the stubborn back line down. I think they had one shot from the edge of the box, which Zetterstrom did a nice token dive from, and that was about it until the end, where credit where it's due. Caden Jackson does really well down the line, puts the ball in, may have took a slight nick off the Burnley player, and then Matt Clark and Jerry Yates at the back posts. I'm not sure. I think Clark should just duck, and Yates literally cannot miss. It is impossible. But it didn't. And James, how much could that come back to bite Derby on the backside?
God, I hope it doesn't. I think even in Clark's position, there is a world in which he scores that. He was just very underneath it. I mean, I had a very good view of it, that end. Yeah, it was a sitter for Yates if he does leave it. It's guaranteed, it's 100%. But I think 9 times out of 10, I think Clark scores those anyway. So it doesn't upset me that he took it on. I can't fault him for that. I think it was too quick. It happened far too quick for Yates to give a shout. I think the ball was too flat. If it was looping, arguably he almost definitely scores, but then there's an argument to say the keepers and defenders have got a bit more time to get back in, get back on the goal line. So I don't know. I'm quite happy that I'm not upset he took the chance at all. I think it'd be harsh to criticise him for that, if I'm honest.
Yeah, Dan, I agree with everything James has said, really. I think it was just one of them awkward speed, awkward height, awkward pretty much all over. Just touching on the point of how much could that come back to bite us. I know you said before we started that last night you feel it was 2 points dropped. Was that the moment the 2 points could have been dropped?
Yeah, I mean, all of us waking up yesterday, if you would have heard someone say 2 points dropped, by the end of the day, no one would have believed us. Totally with James. I think it's too fast. It all happens too fast. Even if Yates did scream, that could have been a Burnley player. Who's to say that he even recognises his voice behind him? He could have just said, anyone could have shouted behind you for you to duck. But what I'd say is it swings and roundabouts, and if they continue to put in the hard work that they're putting on the pitch, they're going to have another chance like that, and they'll stick it away. Big moments define seasons. Last night, Cardiff get themselves an equaliser late. Luton also get themselves an equaliser late. There's an absolute monumental game between Cardiff and Stoke on Saturday with serious implications for multiple sides. I have no problem with our best, what you would say, header of the ball, maybe not in an attacking sense, but Matt Clark is our best header of the ball at the club. Who else would you have asked for in that situation? It just happens. And for the guy to come here, take a 6-month contract, granted, he hasn't got a lot of skin in the game in terms of if we don't stay up, he'll go and get another club. But what he's done for us, again, another guy who doesn't need to be praised. It's just what we've come to expect. Yeah. He was so good in his first spell. He comes here, absolutely no ill feeling from me towards him for that. It happens.
Yeah, well, I think we'll get on to Matt Clark a little bit. I think it's the best piece of business Derby's done in a long time is taking the Aaron Cash-in money and spending it on Matt Clark. I don't think you'll find a more steady centre-back in the division than what Matt Clark is. We will quickly, though, go on Matt Clark's minute after that, where the ball goes over his head. He looks like he gets his legs in a knot. He touches it away from Zetterstrom. It's hearts in the mouths for half a second. And to be fair to Zetterstrom, he did play well last night. I mean, his kicking was actually pretty good. He found Forsyth and Wilson quite a lot from the diagonals. But it happened a couple of times within the game where I think Phillips went mental at him first half for not coming or coming. And it happened again at the end. Now, again, these are little nitpicks, but can Zetterstrom just be that little bit more commanding, James? Because for me, he's such a big guy. Like, he should be coming and cleaning everybody out.
Yeah, that one for Phillips sticks out a lot the first half for me. He kind of got caught in two minds where he could have taken both the Burnley player out and Phillips and cleared it and would have all said, well done. He could have let Phillips deal with it, stayed on his line, made a save and said, well done. In the end, he did absolutely neither. And quite rightly, Phillips gave him an absolute rollicking. And I think Zetterstrom was aware. It looked quite obvious that he knew he'd kind of made a mistake there. I think he even held his hand up and apologised for that one. So I think as a goalkeeper, I mean, he's what, 26, 27? Is Zetterstrom? That's not your prime as a goalkeeper, is it? He's approaching
he's learning, isn't he? He's learning.
He's got a long way to go yet, and I think given 2, 3, 4 seasons, he's going to be a top goalkeeper, especially at this level. I think he'd be more than comfortable in this level, and I think in 3 or 4 seasons he makes a decision there.
I would like to see some better competition though for him, rather than what we have. I think iron cuts iron, doesn't it? Like, and you need someone that's chasing your spot. I mean, God bless Vickers, he's come in and done a job. He's come in, looked a little bit shaky sometimes. But if it was me, if I was in Zetterstrom's head, I wouldn't be thinking that he's going to be taking my shirt off me anytime soon. And that's not to criticise Zetterstrom's performance, I guess. I just think he needs a little bit more competition as well, because we've seen the kicking thing has to be sorted like immediately. It's underrated, costly for us. It just gives the ball straight back. We're not a possession-based side, and it makes it even worse when we keep giving the ball back.
Yeah, it happened a lot first half, didn't it, with his kicking? He was shanking a few, but I think second half, some of the pick out, I think he picked Wilson out once first half, and then after that, he looked really steady. Like the pick out for Forsyth.
Oh, the kicks were really good after that. The fullbacks coming on, Whitler and stuff like that.
The pick out for Forsyth second half was arguably the pass of the game.
Yeah.
It was on perfectly for Fozzie, and if he was just 2-3 years younger, he probably would have got there and been in. We will move swiftly on from yesterday, unless I've forgotten anything, but I think that's majority. There's not really much you can cover in a 0-0 draw. So we're going to go on to a little bit of preview for Saturday's game. We've got Tom Chappell from 4-0 Written All Over It, who's given us a little 3-minute video of how he expects it to go. So I'll just quickly get that playing now for us.
To the boys at Rams Talk. Sorry for taking a while to get this over to you. I was a bit busy, but I was also quite keen to see the outcome of your game tonight, which will inform what I'm about to say about our game on Saturday. A massive point against Burnley, you would say, and I'm sure you boys will be revelling in that, no doubt. We still have to play this midweek, of course, got a trip to Coventry, which I will be going to with the boys tomorrow, so fingers crossed we can get bare minimum something out of that game, but I think that's probably going to be easier said than done. How have we done this season so far? I think our sort of seasons have kind of gone bizarrely parallel, but also in two different directions since we lost 4-0 to you at Pride Park on that Friday night a little while ago. We've had some really good results at Fratton Park with a really, really poor away form. So if this was the other way round, I'd be predicting a Stonewall Derby win. But given that it's at Fratton Park and we're a little bit of a different beast there, not so sure. Players likely to cause most damage to your Derby side, I would say Colby Bishop always a threat and always seems to like a goal against Derby, albeit not in the 4-0, but in the 2 games previous to that, I believe, or at least a handful of games previous. Matt Ritchie's a great player, whether he sort of has an awful lot to do with the game or not. He hasn't been playing an awful lot, but when he does play, he's really impactful. I really like Freddie Potts. He's a bit of an all-action midfielder that kind of does a little bit of everything and can even pop up with a little bit of goal threat here and there. And then the elephant in the room is, of course, Josh Murphy, who is one of the informed wingers in this division right now and is in red-hot form. And we are just delighted to be the team that have the pleasure of having him in their team. He really is that good. Weaknesses in the Pompey team, a lot of backline issue. Connor Shocknessy's been out for the majority of the season, probably won't be back in time for the Derby game. We may see Rob Atkinson feature, we may not. Regan Paul's the only real mainstay. We kind of chop and change between Marlon Pack, whoever's really available, to be honest with you. You may even see a Riley Towler appearance. You might even see free agent Alexander Milosevic make his Pompey debut. Who knows, that might well happen if it doesn't happen tomorrow night. In terms of anything else I think your listeners will enjoy, I would say it's almost nailed on that Marcus Harness will score, because we have a horrible, and I think Derby fans can maybe identify with this from their own perspectives, but former players that have had a decent-ish spell at Pompey tend to always come back and bite us up the proverbial, so expect Marcus Harness to get a goal. If this is at the end of the podcast, I hope you've enjoyed it. If it's not, then enjoy the rest of it, and thank you very much for having me. Look forward to seeing you in Fratton on Saturday.
You're on mute, Jack.
I'm on mute.
It's an amateur move.
Rookie mistake.
I've not even got
some
the
filters
YouTube
for
thing
that.
open, but I can already see Jake Barker typing.
As I was rehearsing myself while I was on mute, we'll pick through what Tom's had to say there. And the key thing I've picked out was what he said about Marcus Harness, because that game against Portsmouth, it was the one home game I've missed this season. I was working. And the only home game I've missed was Derby under Paul Warren looking final. Like, we looked in final form. And Marcus Harness, that was probably his best game for Derby up until, the last 3 weeks. How important is it that we get Marcus Harness back firing? Because I didn't think he was particularly great last night, and he struggled a little bit Saturday. It's so important now that Harness joins us for these last 5, isn't it, James?
Oh, 100%. I mean, he showed he can do it. He's shown he can be clinical. He took both of his goals against Plymouth very, very well. He can show. I actually think technically he's not half bad. He's probably one of our more technical players that we've got in the side, particularly kind of through the middle where he's been deployed. I know he's not necessarily an out-and-out central player. He's crucial, especially alongside Jerry Yates. If there's a player that I think is going to provide a ball for Jerry Yates to latch onto, it is probably Marcus Harness. There's an argument that Kenzo Houndmine can probably do that as well. We've seen he's got decent vision and decent passing. Is he the kind of player that understands what it means to be in a championship relegation scrap? Probably not. Hence Marcus Harness. So yeah, he's vital to if we stay up altogether, let alone just this weekend.
And Dan, another big thing I took out of that was their defensive woes, with obviously him saying Marlon Pack playing centre back, which for me is a massive thing Derby need to get at. We've seen it in the reverse leg that Marlon Pack had an absolute rotter at centre back, and if he plays there again, and our aerial bombardment of Burnley, Portsmouth aren't going to be able to cope with that, are they?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be disrespectful to the gent there or Portsmouth fans in general, but if you take Murphy out of that team, they're getting relegated 100%. Like, I look at their team front to back, they aren't championship. I wouldn't even say Bishop is really a championship level striker. I see much of this. I see much of the same what we did to him at Pride Park happening again on Saturday. It's just whether we're good enough to stick the ball in the net. And that's me going out on a limb, and you know how negative I am. I have absolute confidence we go and at least dominate that game, because I really just don't see what Portsmouth have for us. Clickbait it, bookmark it, and Portsmouth fans come back at me. I'll be on holiday. I'll be on holiday, so I don't care.
It's now a good time to mention we've not won at Fratton Park since 2012.
Oh, that's
we were 2 inches from beating Burnley last night for the first time in 13, 14 meetings
since 2007, wasn't it, Burnley? So
yeah.
It's only 5 years less. Surely, stranger things have happened.
Again, I want to double down on that though. It's not to be disrespectful, because they've really, really impressed me, because they were dog bad. Like really in that first half of the season, like they looked like they were bankers for one of them, but they've got a few injuries out there. I just think we come. I don't really think that we need to have the ball too much. We've proven that we can win games without having the ball. I can see us. Yeah, you're going to go to the predictions, so I'll leave it for when you ask.
Yeah, well, one last thing is the Colby Bishop factor. As Dan says, I don't think he's a particularly amazing striker. However, he does love scoring against Derby. Yeah. Now, I think the last 2 times we played him at home before, obviously the 4-0 win, him and James Collins was the only 2 players to score in them 2 games. Now, James Collins isn't here anymore, which, for better or for worse. But Colby Bishop does love to score against Derby and give it the old bow and arrow celebration. If we can keep him quiet, and obviously Murphy, I think we were linked. I think Oxford wanted, Portsmouth decided to give him a good contract and good money. If we can keep them 2 quiet, I don't see Derby losing the game. However, it is the age-old question of, are we going to score enough goals? Because that is the question. I'll come on to you first, James. We've already had one prediction. We'll get to that at the end. James, go on. Score prediction and scorers, please.
So first and foremost, I am terrified by your two's optimism. I think it's going to be a very open game. I mean, they've scored 8 more than us this season, but they have also let in 9 more than we have. So I think it could be a very open game, and we're not very good from open play. With Milosevic, I think he will score. Ex-Forest. So I am going to go, I don't know, I can see a 2-2.
Again.
Yeah, again.
Scorers for Derby.
I am going to go Marcus Harness. I think he's due one. And I do think Craig Forsyth.
Fozzie for top goal scorer at this rate. Dan, go on, score predictions. I know this is going to be wild.
It's going to be wild, and you never thought that you'd hear something like this out of my mouth. I'm not going to name the Portsmouth scorer, because I don't really know any of them apart from Bishop. I'm going to go for a 3-1 win to Derby, and I'm going to go for Harness as well as James. I'm going to go for Jackson to silence the haters, and I just think we're going to flood the box on a set piece in front of that shed end, in front of them Rams fans, to seal a 3-1 win. And it'll be a huge step towards survival. Massive.
That's the thing,
step.
isn't it? That's the thing. With the win, it does just relieve the pressure from the bottom 3 if results go right. We've got Jim in the chat saying We'll beat Pompey 3-1. Yates, Harness, and Harrison Armstrong. Now, I'm going to call it off a little bit. I think we'll win potentially 2-0, 2-1. I can see us doing a very similar thing that we have been doing, where we score 2 goals rather quickly, let one in just to, make it exciting in Derby fashion, and let's hope we don't have a full meltdown like Plymouth. My 2 scorers, again, he hasn't scored for a few games, so we'll go Har9, Marcus Harness with 1. And I'm going to get on the defender train. I'm going to keep willing it into existence. Nat Phillips from a corner, the big crane, the San Siro experience. He's going to get on his score sheet, and hopefully we leave him in the dressing rooms at Moor Farm and never let him leave. Other than that, lads, I don't think there's much more to touch on. So if you've enjoyed listening to us waffle for the last 40 minutes, you know what to do. Leave the ratings on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all that good stuff. We are still doing our running challenges, so have a look at that. I'm massively behind because I started in the middle, but I think Jake and Vic have already got their 100%, and I think as a team we're 80 to 85% of the way through with 5 to go. So it's going to be touch and go. It's going to be very close to the bone. I am slacking with Domino's and Pizza Hut, but hey, other good pizza companies are available. Other than that, again, appreciate all your support. Make sure you drop the boys who've been on tonight a follow. Make sure you follow us normal lads. Keep up to date with all the Rams Talk socials. And it's a goodbye from me.
It's a goodbye from me.
And I'll toast a glass of sake on Saturday night in Osaka after Caden Jackson silences the haters. It's goodbye from me.
Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll catch you on Sunday. And that is a part.